I remember vividly how shocked and repulsed my father was by Muhammad Ali when he was at the height of his boxing prowess. It's not that my father disliked him for being a boxer, though he wasn't especially fond of boxing. Rather, it was Ali's boastful self-aggrandizement that bothered him. To hear a human being say, "I am the greatest," was for my father the polar opposite of the sort of humility truly great people exhibit. Unfortunately, such public self-aggrandizement seems to have become the norm these days, whether among sports figures or captains of industry or political figures. Turns out, Jesus has a word to say about this. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Monday, February 2nd, 2026. Early in Jesus' ministry, we encountered him teaching in the synagogue in the little fishing village of Capernaum on the northwest shore of the Sea of Galilee. Today's reading takes place much later in Jesus' ministry, but also in Capernaum, where he has come with his disciples on his way to Jerusalem. By this time, most of his public ministry in Galilee has come to an end, and he's concentrating his efforts on preparing his disciples for what is to come, including his arrest, suffering and death, and finally his resurrection. In today's passage, they return to Capernaum and they go to the house. Which house? It's probably the home of Peter's mother-in-law just down the hill from the local synagogue. This is the house that is often considered to be the site of the very first Christian church. Let's listen in on this part of the gospel story. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it among them, and taking it in his arms, he said, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." Like a good leader, Jesus has gathered his closest followers for a time of instruction. He begins by asking them what they have been talking about, arguing about, on the way to Capernaum. They sit in embarrassed silence before Jesus. Mark lets us in on what has happened, which is that they have been arguing about who among them will be the greatest. It is really a stunning scene, isn't it? Can you imagine a more inappropriate thing to think about, let alone argue about? Just saying it out loud reveals how contrary to the gospel it is, how antithetical to the spirit of Christian discipleship it is. Christian discipleship is not about becoming the greatest. It's not about self-aggrandizement. It has nothing to do with prideful boasting. Christian discipleship is about servanthood. And to make his point, Jesus brings in a little child, the polar opposite of someone with social status. "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me," he says. It's hard for us to understand his point because we celebrate children in our culture. But in most ancient cultures, children were absolutely the least important people. No one would think to bother to welcome a child. It would have been beneath one's dignity to do so. But the point's clear, isn't it? In the kingdom, the usual measure of status has become the least important. To argue about who is the greatest becomes the opposite of kingdom values. To brag about one's greatness is to identify oneself with values that are actually antithetical to the kingdom of heaven. True greatness consists not in self-aggrandizement, but in traits like humility and with actions consistent with servanthood. Nothing against Muhammad Ali, who may have been the greatest boxer, but the kingdom of God is not about bragging rights. Now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.